Alright man, peace. You know brothers, many of the themes in my videos, especially pertaining to these court segments, tend to interrelate and correlate with one another. Especially the topics of, are you in a toxic relationship, the breakup, makeup dynamic, so on and so forth. And I like to cover these videos and these topics repetitively because one of the main hindrances and stumbling blocks to the so-called black man ascending to his highest level of understanding is going to be the woman. The woman in general is going to be a great distraction for you. She is a blessing that the Most High placed here on the earth for the man, but she's only a blessing when you make her that. When you don't make her that, she's going to be a great curse because you're going to start to follow her as opposed to stipulating that she follow you. And that's extremely important in all things, that the woman understands that she has to follow you. That is why in Satan's society, which is what this is, everything is determined by the woman within our quote unquote community. They've translated all power over to the woman to the point and effect where the so-called black man now thinks like a woman. And as long as you think like a woman, you're never going to be able to lead the woman, because you're going to resort to endless circular conversations pertaining to your emotional whims. That's why I tell brothers, don't go back and forth with the woman. She's trying to distract you, whether she understands that or not. So that brings us to this case right here, featuring Miss Tamala Mitchell. The plaintiff, as we're going to hear, is a very fractured, psychologically disturbed and hurt person. And she's bringing a lawsuit against the defendant, one of her quote unquote baby daddies. I want you brothers to pay very close attention to how they interact with one another and how toxic their rapport is, and how it all could have been averted if the defendant simply thought with his top head as opposed to his bottom head. And don't get it twisted, we've all been there. I don't give a shit who you are. We've all thought with our bottom head for at least one moment in our lives, if not for a whole time period within our lives. But it's important that we grow and we learn, and we elevate up to a high level of existence by learning from our previous experiences and learning from our mistakes. That's all life is about. None of us are perfect. But once again, pay very close attention to what goes on here. Of course, they're going to talk about it. I'm going to chime in.
If Tamala Mitchell says when she started dating the defendant, he knew she was a dancer, but he soon had an issue with it.
So, brothers, I hope that you heard that. According to the narrator, he states that the plaintiff informed the defendant that at one time she was a quote-unquote stripper, and might still be to this day. Who the hell knows? She said that at the time he acted as if he had no problem with it, but then later on he started to try to pay issuance to it to try to get her to change who she was as a person. You brothers have all heard this statement: you could not turn a hoe into a housewife. You just can't. Other than Christ with Mary Magdalene, you cannot turn a hoe into a housewife. They're going to be who they're going to be. Don't ever try to change shit into sugar. You can't get into a taxi cab or an Uber and try to act as if you're driving down the street in a Ferrari. It's just not going to make sense. It's not going to happen. Alchemy is for those who believe in witchcraft. It's not for the real world. You cannot transform a person into what you want them to be. They have to want to make that change. And 99.999% of the time, they're not going to want to make that change. The woman is not going to want to convert from being a whore into being a wife, because a wife has far less fanfare and far more responsibilities as well as accountability. The modern day female in this society, she lives her life in a bubble of entitlement. She can say and do whatever she pleases with whoever she pleases whenever she wants, and that's what she's going to ride out on until this society comes to an end.
Tamala claims the defendant was mentally and physically abusive, and she's suing him for unpaid child support.
And those type of things happen, abuse, whether it be verbal, mental, or even physical, because the man does not want to accept what he himself has allowed himself to subscribe to. You decided to get with a low-level woman, and now you wonder why things are so quote-unquote toxic. You know, the toxicity starts with us, brothers. It doesn't start with the woman. We have the opportunity to create the lives that we want. You don't have to deal with a woman and say, you know, I'm just going to keep breaking up and making up with her. You know, that's my down-ass chick. That's my ride or die. All that shit is bullshit. You fuck around with these low-level broads, you are going to die. There's not going to be any ride, just a die.
Defendant Willis Berenger says Tamala was the abusive one in their relationship, but she had him falsely arrested for assault, and he spent a week in jail.
That's what happens when you try to make something work with someone that is not meant to work with. You end up in these domestic disturbances, and they may even file false allegations against you, like the defendant is alleging the plaintiff did, simply out of spite because they understand how the system works for them. That's why I always tell you brothers, we have to start thinking sharper. Stop letting the liberal black woman abduct your narrative pertaining to race relations with the police. They do it simply for attention because the police have been very close friends to the liberal black female for the last 45, 50 years.
Willis claims now that he's no longer with Tamala, she's been keeping his son from him.
All rise. This court is now in session. The Honorable Judge Greg Mathis presiding. You may now be seated.
Start with you.
I wish I never met him, to be honest. I would.
Well, tell us how you really feel. I mean, shit. She didn't even introduce the damn case. She just talked about how she personally feels.
No, I'm really like, I met him in 2011. It was Facebook. In 2011, I lost my mom, the lady, my foster mom, who died.
Now, no disrespect and not to be judgmental, quote unquote, but when you hear a female start speaking about how she was brought up in the foster care system, there is going to be the higher potential for her to possibly suffer from some type of mental issues, because many foster children are placed in situations where they're being abused sexually and physically. When I look at this female and I see that most likely she has tattoos covering her entire body, you see on her neck and also on her wrists, she's tatted up. So I can presume that her entire body is tatted up in that way. That normally tells me, from my experience of studying the subject, that she's ashamed of her natural body because she was sexually molested as a child. So brothers have to keep these things in mind, man. You just can't, try to hit on these chicks all over the internet and on social media and say to yourself, well, I know that she's a hoe, but I still want to hit that. And then catch feelings for a broad like that, man. We have to have higher standards for ourselves.
I was going battle with a depression, and I was going to the University of Toledo, and Willis reached out and I put up a status on Facebook.
Was he going there also?
No, he graduated. He went to Ann Arbor. He was to University of Michigan in Ann Arbor. He played in 2002.
And you're here for child support? It's one of the top universities in the country. And he can't pay his child support to you. That's something to this. There's a trick to this. Go ahead. He must have went on crack after he graduated. Something happened. Go ahead. My son graduated University of Michigan. He's working for the United States Senate. Now,
and that's a humble brag, but it's still a brag. My son, he graduated from Ann Arbor. He's an Alpha Sigma Pi Theta Omega, the best fraternity. He working with the U.S. Senate right now. This nigga graduated from Michigan and he's can't pay a goddamn child support? I got to hear this.
elite college, and everybody there gets the top of the line jobs. But go ahead.
So we did start dating in 2013. Like, it was toxic, like mental, physical abuse between me and him.
Please tell me you finished school first.
My mom died. I had to drop out of school to take care of my brother. Okay. And I'm in college right now at University of Mott. I mean, not university, at Mott. Yes. Mm-hmm. I changed my major, so it was auto body tech to work on cars. So I think we need more women to work on cars. Yeah.
I don't. We don't need more women working on cars. If you've ever experienced a woman in a car, that's most of these bros barely know how to drive, much less fix the goddamn car.
And guys, 2013, we started dating. It was toxic. He was ashamed of me because I was a dancer. I'm still a dancer, and I was confused. Like, if you ashamed of me, why you date me? Like,
I agree. If the bro was already a hoe when you met her, why are you expecting her to clean herself up after you start dating her? A lot of dudes think that they have like a magic penis or something, like their penis is gonna make a chick just do whatever the hell they want the chick to do. A woman might act like she's receptive to what you have to say early because she's in the infatuation phase, but very soon after that, the real her is going to start to come back out. People are who they are. You can't change them. I say this all the time. The woman has to come out of the box. No assembly required, batteries included.
Dog Was a Dancer is on my Facebook, it's on my Instagram. It's not new to him. We broke up in 2013 because he was done with me. When he wanted to be done with me, I was fine with that. And
no, you wasn't. You wasn't fine with that. Y'all met in 2011. Y'all got together. You claimed that he was done with you in 2013 and you were fine with that. That's a lie.
In 2014.
What does that mean? Done with you when he wanted to be done with you?
He was fed up with her bullshit. She probably had been trying to leave him periodically, repeatedly, trying to leave him because she wanted to go back to being an unrepentant hoe who didn't have to hear his bullshit. And he got aggravated eventually due to her constantly trying to leave, and he twisted it, turned it on her and said, you know what, bitch, go. Because he was tired of not being able to change her. She left, but as usual with these toxic relationships, what makes a relationship really toxic is when neither party can let go.
Well, how did that conversation
when I
go?
tried to break up with him, he would not let me go. But when he wanted to be done with it, he just left when he wanted to left.
Was there an incident?
It was just toxic. Like, we was like mental. Like,
so on one of those top.
When she said that it was toxic, what she really means is that he kept trying to tell her what to do. The woman does not want to be guided by the man. And this current relationship system that we live in, the relationship paradigm is two people are supposed to be so compatible personality-wise that they finish each other's sentences. That's the only way for a relationship to last in this society. That's why the turnover rate in relationships is so high, because they're not based in anything of substance. There are no more gender roles, and there is no more spiritual component to relationships because there's no more cultural component. So-called black people have no culture for the most part. A lot of so-called blacks get upset when I say that. It is what it is. American culture is not real culture. American culture is just the lima. Do whatever the hell you want to do. Do what thou wilt. So that's why the relationship structure is so tenuous. Relationships are so fragile. So what she means is, he kept telling me what to do. I don't want a man to tell me what to do. I just want to have fun. Girls just want to have fun.
Incidents, you all never got back together.
We never got back together.
Yeah, okay.
And I didn't say that. Cyndi Lauper said that, the singer.
So, 2014, I moved on. I went with my ex.
No shit. You went back to another toxic relationship. You know, brothers, I know that it's very difficult because you develop connections with these people. But people don't change. They just try to alter who they are to fool you over and over and over again. That's all they do. So once someone shows you who they are, and with the woman, her number one problem is her narcissism, her sense of self-worship and self-importance. If she cannot control that, because they're all narcissists, it's just a matter of how severe that issue is that they have. If she can't control that, you guys are never going to work. No matter how long of a quote-unquote break y'all took. And she only took the break so that she can get broken off by some other dick and see if she could replace you. She's back because she couldn't replace you. It's not about you per se. It's about the fact that she could not find anyone better than you yet.
At Willis' job in 2014, and he told me in March he wanted me back. I was in love with Willis, so I got back with him.
I was in love with Willis. What that translates to is he treated me better than the next guy did, or than the ex did per se. Most of these people don't even know what the term love or in love actually means. But, you know, I'll give the plaintiff the benefit of the doubt and say that maybe she actually was, quote unquote, in love with the defendant, because in love, in my view, from my perspective, means that there's a biochemical addiction that you just can't gratify or satisfy anywhere else with anyone else. And that's why people have these crashes when they have these breakups, because they were, quote unquote, in love. It's like a chemical dependency. That's why people keep going back to one another, even though, you know, the connection is toxic.
This is 3 years later, or how many years?
A year later.
1 year later.
Yes.
Okay.
In 2014, April, I got pregnant. I told Willis I didn't know if it was his or the other guy.
In 2014, you got pregnant and you told the dude that you didn't know whether it was his or the other guy. So that means that by the time you found out that you were pregnant, which I would assume was within a month and a half, you knew that you were still fucking both guys. So you didn't leave the ex to go back to Willis. You were fucking them both at the same time.
December 11, our son came, and a DNA showed that Willis was the father.
Was not.
You was the father.
Was not.
Okay.
I got one kid. His name Willis Behringer III.
That's what I'm talking about.
You said King. You said your other kid that you had during our marriage.
I said 2004. You had a baby too.
No, I didn't.
You did it? I got text messages for that lady right now.
I don't have
Okay.
kids.
But anyways,
You had a child doing your marriage?
yes, I did. In
Outside?
2017. It's 2017. He did it in 2016.
I didn't.
The girl.
That's normal toxic female deflection tactics. She did something, but she's trying to deflect it over to him, something that she is not going to be able to substantiate. But once again, he brought it on himself by trying to make it work with a scalawag. Once a hoe, always a hoe. There's nothing that you're going to be able to do to change that. In general, the average woman, in general, not all women, but the average woman is ungrateful. So you can't be one of those guys who says, I treated her so well, look at what she did to me. You have to expect a certain level of ungratefulness from the woman. That's why it's incumbent upon you as a so-called black man to put the Most High first, because he is your head. The woman can never be your number one priority, or you're going to end up bugged out of your mind, and you're going to end up in court like this dude right here. They hate to be held accountable. When I say they, I'm talking about the woman in general. It's just not in their nature to accept culpability for anything.
Sorry.
The girl wrote me. She reached out to my mom and said, your husband had a baby with my cousin.
Show me something from the woman who had the baby,
Yeah,
not no mess and gossip from her cousin. Go ahead.
2006 graduate at University of Michigan.
All right. There. What's up, man? That's a big achievement. Big achievement. Where'd you grow up?
I'm from Toledo, Ohio, sir.
Okay, that's a major achievement. Toledo is a tough town with a lot of poverty, with it, and things that cause people to have a weak education.
Well, I currently coach youth football because of that situation.
Okay, good.
I met Tamala, yes, on Facebook. I met her trying to help her with her paper.
Bullshit. You met her trying to help her with some dick. Alright, knock it off. Don't start your testimony with no fucking bullshit. You didn't meet her trying to help her with no goddamn paper. You met her trying to help her with some dick.
On Facebook. And so 2013, we got together. March 2013, we started working at the same job. I got her pregnant during that time.
Were you out of school, obviously?
Yeah, I knew what I was doing. How
long had you been out of school?
I've been out of school.
No, nigga, you didn't know what you were doing. You'd have been better off by saying that you made a mistake, you didn't know what you were doing. For you to stand there and say that you knew what you were doing, that tells me that you're mentally disturbed, or you have a low IQ despite the fact that you claim to have graduated from that university and this university. And let me say that just because somebody's a graduate from some scholastic institution does not make them intelligent. All that means is that they can be indoctrinated and they can memorize what someone else is telling them. What intellect or intelligence is the ability to perceive information and understand the information that's being sent towards you. All an educated person is someone who has memorized what someone else has told them. And that's not to poo-poo anyone who is a graduate or an achiever of quote-unquote higher education. But there is a difference there.
What?
At that point. When did you graduate? What year?
I graduated from Valparaiso in 2009. I went to grad school and got my master's also.
Okay.
So you got all that, but you decided, I'm going to knock down a stripper, a $2 hoe, and get her pregnant. That's what you decided.
Talk too big, because I'm going to have to roast you if you're not paying this child support.
That's what I'm saying. You graduated from the University of Michigan. You got your master's or your PhD, whatever the hell you claim you got from Valparaiso, but you knocked up this stripper. And now you're the defendant in a court case on child support. So that tells me that you got some bullshit degrees.
You're talking too big for me. You're setting yourself up.
That's all right. Your Honor. Your Honor.
You got your master's. You got with her. You
I got her
had a
pregnant in
child.
2014.
You got married.
And then she put her hands on me.
After she put her hands
She
on
put her hands on me before we got married. I let that go.
Well, that was another mistake. Brothers, if a person puts their hands on you, you know, they always talk about domestic violence with the woman as the recipient. There are many men who are the victims of domestic violence that just don't say anything about it because their attitude is, I'm a man, I can take a woman's blows. A woman's not supposed to put her hands on you. And a lot of times you can see when a woman has the potential to try to act like she's going to get bucked, because even in a regular tone or in a regular interaction, she's very handsy, or, you know, she might act like she's playing or what have you. Many of these females are raised in environments that are dominated by the mother. So therefore, in the household, they're raised being physically and verbally abusive to their brothers, especially if the brother is younger. And that's preparation for a lot of the, you know, the physical abuse that they'll try to utilize on their potential boyfriends or their man or their quote unquote husband. But this guy was a fool. The woman put her hands on him before they got married, and he still went through with it. So that tells me he's not getting very good advice.
Okay.
She hit me and called the police and
What
said,
year was this?
This was 2013.
Huh?
March 2013.
You married when?
We married February 2014.
All right. And tell me from the marriage what occurred.
Well, I married her because she had my son. I grew up in a two-parent household. I believe you grew up in a strong two-parent household, the child becomes a great individual.
Yeah, all that sounds nice, but bro, if you grew up in a two-parent household, then one would think that you would have said to yourself, I want a woman who has similar qualities to my mother when it comes to loyalty and respect for me and so on and so forth. The plaintiff never showed you any respect over the course of the relationship, dealing with other men and things of that nature, going back to an ex and then fucking you and the ex at the same time. But maybe you didn't care because you one of them dudes who said, I'm going to compete with this other dude to get this hoe back. And that's another thing. You should never have to compete for the woman, bro. This society tries to pump up men's heads to believe that they should be competing for the woman that they have. You shouldn't have to compete for that woman. You treat her well with honor and respect. If she shows that she can't decide between you and some other dude, help her out. Send her to that other dude.
Oh, I adhere to
If he can eat.
If you can. Yeah, if you can. All right. So.
The judge getting on his ass now because he's talking way bigger than he appears to be as a person. Like, come on, bro. You had a child with the wrong woman. Now you're bragging about your degrees and talking about a two-parent household. And the child that you made with her can't even get any money because you're upset that she won't let you see the child. What did you expect?
Go ahead.
So we end up getting married.
That's when the child support come in. Got married.
We ended up getting married in February 2014. August of the same year, she hit me again. She put her hands on me. She called the police. She put her hands on me, called the police, and said that I was committing domestic violence against her. So they took me to jail for like a week. At that point, this was the second time I was done with the relationship. And she was threatening me with, she withdrew all the money from our joint bank account.
No,
we had a joint bank account. She withdrew all the money.
No, I didn't. What's your job?
She withdrew all the money from our joint bank account.
Let her finish, man.
She withdrew all the money from joint bank account. Then she withheld sex from me. And at that point,
what?
Withheld sex. Well, I mean, I'm saying that we're married.
A woman has that option.
No, sir. No, a woman does not have that option. If you're going to be so-called married to a woman and she's going to tell you, no, I just don't feel like having sex every night and it's purposeful, that's the same as food or water deprivation. That's why the scriptures tell us that the man's body does not belong to himself, nor the woman's body belong to herself. Their bodies belong to their spouse. You become one flesh in more ways than one. You have to satisfy each other's urges and needs to the best of your ability. I mean, barring a medical or biological condition. So no, it's not a woman's right to just say, I don't feel like fucking you, and say that for 2, 3 weeks, 4 weeks in a row. That's pushing a man towards dealing with another woman outside of the contractual obligation that this society calls marriage.
I'm with you. I understand. But there's no reason to take money out the bank account. And then,
correct.
And she called the police, hit me, and called the police and say that I committed domestic violence against her. That's here nor there. I didn't do any of that. I'm a stand-up guy, sir. But the most important thing is she said she's going to keep my son from me. And she has succeeded in doing that within the last 2 years.
Right, but what do you expect? The woman basically acts as the caretaker of the child. The father of the child in this society is the state. It's not you as a man. Your only job as a man, your only real responsibility in the eyes of the state and the global corporation is to provide seed for the microcosm of the Divine Mother, that being these little these little strumpets out here that y'all call women. And are there some decent and good women out here? Absolutely. But the average female out here is just a microcosm of the mother goddess of sex and lust, Aphrodite. So they're going to do what they want. They're going to jump from person to person. They're going to hoe around, and they're going to glamorize themselves for doing so and claim that they have the right to do what they want with their body. In a community, no one truly has the right to do whatever the fuck they feel like doing. You just don't. But men understand responsibility from a three-dimensional perspective more than the woman does. Men understand why I can't do something because it's for the benefit of society more than the woman does. That's why Luciferians work through the woman so much, because the woman is led by her ego for the most part. And as I always say, are there exceptions to that? Absolutely.
My son, I only see my son at least 3 times.
Tell you why?
It's difficult to get in contact with this individual.
In 2 years, you haven't been able to contact her?
Well, no, it's not that I haven't been able to contact her. When I do communicate with her, she's hard to get a hold of. And I have to, in the divorce decree, I'm supposed to
Michigan grad, you said when I do get a hold of her, it's hard to get a hold of her.
No, excuse me, sir.
Once again, it's very obvious to me that the brother's not that swift. Not to try to besmirch his intellect or what have you, but, I mean, come on.
Excuse me, Your Honor. It's difficult to get a hold of her.
Right. Once you get a hold of her,
she doesn't. I have to adhere.
Look at Mathis. Mathis getting frustrated. He's like, spit it out, you dumb nigga.
I have to change my schedule for her instead of us meeting at a compromise.
So you let that stop you from 2 years for 2 years. Let me hear from you.
No, sir. I was in 2 car accidents in 2016, April the 4th and April the 30th.
So let me get this straight. You was in 2 car accidents in April in 1 month in the same year, but you working on cars and trying to fix cars. Didn't I tell you that we don't need any damn female auto technicians? That's what we don't need. We need some female kitchen technicians.
To realize to tell you, he lost his job for 5 months. He lost his job. He was jobless for 5 months because he was smoking weed.
I believe it.
His job. So me being in a car accident, he didn't go to none of the doctor appointment. He refused to go.
Let's move on from the mess to the child support issue, because by your own admission, ma'am, you had a baby while in the middle of being married to this man. You have no definitive proof that he did the same, and he denies it. So let's move on. You all both got a very, very messy situation there.
And I mostly blame the defendant for that. You knew what she was coming into the whole thing, bro. You decided to go tit for tat with a low-level person. When you allow a low-level person to make you go back and forth with them, they want you to play in the mud with them because they hate their own life. Many people out here hate their own fucking life, and the only solace that they receive is getting you to go back and forth with them in the fucking mud.
And I don't know whose mess is the biggest. What's the child support? Let's get there.
Willis owed $2,800 to child support.
Tell me how. What year, sorry.
I filed in 2017 in August while I was pregnant. I called Willis to see, before the child support order, before I filed, I called Willis verbally. He said I never got in touch with him. I called him verbally. I'm like, I need help with your son. He like, that's not none of my business. So I filed for child support because we got a kid together. Like, you're not going to help me.
Right, go ahead.
So I filed.
The reason why he's so upset is because he cannot control the situation. He wanted to control this woman and therefore also control the child. He wanted to actually preside over the family. I tell you brothers this all the time. There's a difference between the way that things are as opposed to the way that we know things are supposed to be. If you want to get influence back, we have to get power back. You cannot have power unless you have steady revenue coming in. The woman operates according to options, not according to loyalty. Period. Are there exceptions to that? Yes. Every once in a while you find a needle in a haystack. But the woman is very carnal, very two-dimensional. And she does gravitate towards options, especially options that can lead to chaos. If she has an open door to head out into an environment that is even unknown, she's more likely to choose that than stability. Unless she's been through a lot of upheavals in her life, bad experiences where she's learned to stick with stability. If the woman has never had a truly bad experience in her life, she is going to seek after any form of entropy or chaos just to see what it's like. So a man is a fool if he thinks that he's just going to control someone who's shown you through her past. Her resume shows you what she is. Look at her. I mean, come on. Up in the courtroom, dressed in all black, looking like she's about 20 pounds underweight, with a crazy wig on the top of her head and her entire body covered in tattoos. And that's who you wanted to make the mother of your child. And you're a graduate from the University of Michigan and you got your master's from Valparaiso. Right? I mean, come on. We gotta do better than this shit.
To court, and he was supposed to pay $253 a month.
You have the order?
Yes. I reached out to Willis numerous times. Willis, our son was with, living with his mom and dad because his dad died in November. So Willis saw our son numerous times. So it's not like he didn't see his son.
That's a fib, yeah.
Okay, well that's not the issue here anyhow. It was supposed to begin in July?
Yeah.
All right. And you all divorced when?
On June.
When did you separate households?
August 2016.
August of 16, you separated households. The child
was in my custody at the time.
Did he pay? Did he give you any money?
Yes.
Dumb bitch. Have you gotten a check from him yet? I want to end this case. You niggas sicken me.
For your child.
Yes, sir.
You looking at me like you don't understand what I mean.
Because she's bugged out of her fucking mind. You can't see that, Judge Mathis? She's bugged out.
And okay, and you were satisfied with that amount from 2016 until the time you filed?
He just stopped paying me. He just stopped doing
Okay, so that's a yes.
Yes.
All right. And since the July of 2018, he has missed all of these payments?
He only paid $10 to keep his license.
And to your knowledge, why wasn't he giving you anything since 2016?
I don't know.
You never asked?
I reached out to him before we moved to
What would he say?
He just said he wanted to see his son, and I'm trying to.
Okay, well then that's the reason, ma'am. But sir, what you must know is that is not a way to escape child support. That's a custody dispute, not a child support dispute. Even when a woman withholds visitation, you still have to pay. You go to the court and you file for contempt for them not fulfilling the order of the court for child visitation.
I've paid as much as I can. I'm currently looking for another job so I can pay.
Now this is what I'm talking about right here. The brother graduated from the University of Michigan. He has a master's from Valparaiso. And he's talking about how he's currently looking for another job. Are you sure that you're not purposely trying to avoid jobs that are on the books so that you won't have to pay her the child support? Because cats do that. Out of bitterness and out of vindictiveness. I'm just not going to get a job on the books because I don't want to have to pay this bitch child support. All of these decisions lead up to the life that we currently live today. All the decisions that we made in the past are going to determine how we're living today. So brothers have to be very careful, man, especially when you're in your late teens to your early 20s. We do a lot of dumb shit that can affect us for the rest of our lives.
Since 2016, were you paying consistently?
No, sir.
All right, why not?
Well, I had a couple things going on within my life around that time. My father...
For 2 years, you haven't been able to pay.
No,
Michigan,
I didn't say...
Michigan man.
No.
How much have you paid since 2000? All this game ain't nothing.
No, I'm not talking
2016. How much? Sir, be quiet. You've been to jail before, so you know what a judge does. Now, since 2016, how much have you paid? That's what I want to know.
I have the papers right here.
No, you tell me. Who do you think you're talking?
Nigga, who you think you're talking to? Gonna hand me a whole big wad of loose leaf. This is not chemistry class, nigga. I said, how much have you paid?
No.
I'm sorry.
You think you can come in here and the judge ask you how much and you say, here go the papers, read?
Yeah, who the fuck you think you messing with? Judge Joe Brown? I'm Judge Mathis, nigga.
Yourself? Who do you think you are? Now go ahead.
If I was 30 years young, I'd whoop your ass. And take that fine stripper back home with me.
Tell me how much you've paid. You read your papers.
Can you read, nigga? You sound dumb as hell. You been out here stuttering more than Porky Pig. Talking about you got a degree here and a degree there.
You can read, Michigan man, can't
Yes, sir.
you?
Yes,
All
sir.
right. Master's degree.
Yes, sir.
Go ahead, read it.
Yeah, I believe I paid at least.
You believe? Nigga, are we in court or we in church? I don't want to hear about what you believe.
Your claim is granted. You are unsure, and she is very sure. She has shown me the order to payment. She says you've paid nothing. You don't know how much you paid. That's why her judgment is granted. Have a good day.
You're an embarrassment to everyone who's ever lived in Michigan, much less graduated from the University of Michigan. You sicken me. I'm going to call the dean when I get back to my chambers. Get your name stricken from the books.
I just want to see my son. I just want to see my son, dude. I don't care about nothing. I just want to see. You ain't reach out to nothing. You ain't reach out to nothing. Man, whatever, man. You hold my son hostage, man. You hold hostages.
His whole life is fucked up because of the bad decision that he made to try to turn that whore into a housewife and impregnating her. So hopefully it's something that brothers can learn from. Peace.